Quack. 12 in. Oh! I am your host, Adam Chimeo.
And I am Aaron Schroeder.
That is right, and this is the Pac-12 podcast, the most unofficial Oregon Ducks podcast on the web footosphere. And we beat a team. We kind of beat a team into submission, into pulp, whatever you want to say. Aaron, what are your thoughts on the Oregon-Portland State game?
I fell asleep in the third quarter.
Fair enough. I do not blame you whatsoever. I mean, there is stuff coming out like Bruce Barnum, Portland State's coach, was basically saying, he's like, I made a decision, the best decision for my team. We had our backups in on the second half. He's like, I don't even want to do that. This is clearly a scrimmage. This is clearly a practice. We're down 50-7.
Yeah. Yeah, that first quarter was fun.
Mm-hmm.
Second quarter was like, oh, this is how this is going to go. Maybe it's time for a tradition change that we don't make this poor human inside a duck costume do. I mean, come on. By the end of the game, I was like, by the time I fell asleep, I should say, I was already like, I can't handle this dude having to do that.
The duck doing push-ups is basically like a sheep jumping over a fence for you. Just one,
I guess
two.
So. Well, it was just so funny, too, because the announcers were, loving it. They were like, this is excellent content.
I think they were like, oh, it's something to talk about. Look over there.
That's
it's
also true, right?
About.
What is in this game to talk about?
To be fair, we're doing the same thing right now. We immediately started talking about the duck nude push-ups.
I mean, I'm only bringing it up because I think maybe once you hit 48 points, we're good here. We don't need him to keep doing. I keep saying him, but I honestly don't know if it's
I don't know.
Yeah, the duck.
The duck. That's all I gotta say.
We don't need the duck to. Or how about this? It's the same thing. It feels just as good. For every touchdown, do 7 push-ups.
Well, that's what he's saying, yeah. Oh, you
but
mean
they
just
made him
7
start
instead
over
of
from the beginning.
Oh, I get you. You mean 14,
so he's doing
50,
and then the next time he's doing 57, and then the next time he's doing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like this person walked away doing nearly 1,000 push-ups that day. I bet,
think
or nearly
they said
500.
I think yes. Oh, more. They did 546 push-ups.
Right. So when you get your touchdown that equates to your 28th point,
yes,
just do 7 more push-ups.
Now,
that way you've now done 28 total.
Okay, we got multiple, not to, reveal that Santa Claus isn't real to any listeners or anything like that, but there's multiple ducks. There's multiple duck costumes. I think we should just switch. You know what I mean? Just like in the okay, you get a break. We're bringing in the ripped duck to come in. He's going to do some push-ups.
Hold on.
Oh, no, Aaron. Did I just... Oh, no. Aaron, it's not true.
Are you telling me that on a game-to-game basis, there's a different human inside that costume?
I bet you. I mean, there's multiple. I think there's multiple.
I bet you don't know?
Be. I don't know. They like to keep the magic, the mystery up in the air. They don't want to tell you how many ducks there are.
So how do you know there's multiple?
I just assume you got. I mean, what if someone pukes in
You're
the
like,
costume?
not to rip off the Santa Claus ain't real Band-Aid, but this is something I've assumed.
I mean, I'm assuming there's because what if someone chucks in the first one? You got to have a second costume, right? There's multiple people I think that do. I don't think there's one mascot guy or girl that is set to do it. Like, I think there's
Well,
multiple
I
people.
assume it works more like theater, right? Where there is like the one person who is definitely in that costume every game, unless they're sick, and then like the understudy shows up.
I think it's more like you're at Disneyland. They don't got one person walking around in that thing because they'll die, you know. You have to have multiple. You got to union rules. Got to swap in people out. My older
Really?
sister.
You think Disney follows union rules? We're getting way off topic.
Good point. Yeah, that was probably the most interesting thing to happen in this. But you know, you say it was had more of your attention in the first quarter. Makes sense, but I'll tell you, the second drive Portland State had when they kind of marched down the field, not gonna lie, I was kind of afraid. If they scored more than 2 touchdowns, luckily they didn't, I would have come to this with a different energy of like, what the fuck is wrong with our defense?
Okay, so that actually, you hit me with a great overview question, which I feel like we're still in the overview portion of this whole thing, which is the absolute whipping we laid down upon them. Does that have any positive effect on those who choose rankings? You know what I mean? Like when you're supposed to beat this team,
Yeah.
you know, when you beat them by 30 points, everybody's like, well, that's exactly what I expected.
Oh, yeah.
But we've now beat them by so many more points. It's like, holy crap. Well, maybe this Oregon team is actually better than what we expected. So maybe.
I think at a certain point, they look and they go like, okay, they allowed 7 points and they scored over, let's say, freaking 50, you know. Eventually it kind of goes to like, all right, you don't get bonus points for beating the crap out of second, third string Portland State players, you know, players that you're actually like a team you're paying to come play with you. Like eventually you don't get any extra brownie points, but we certainly checked the box of didn't let Portland State, you know, push us around, score us or score on us even in the second half.
Yeah.
And also our offense looked like untouchable, certainly unstoppable. Even in the second half when we had Ty Thompson out there who looked good, looked confident, you know, against Portland State again. But yeah, pretty solid. I was pretty happy with it.
Yeah. Oh, and then to say, just to piggyback on what you were saying earlier, in that first quarter, I could already tell, within the first few minutes of the game, it was like, oh, sure, this is a game that is highly mismatched. And because of that, when Portland State had the ball, I was kind of like, come on, give us a run for our money at least a little bit.
No, I didn't want any of that. I wanted, oh my God. Especially with the defense, that's the biggest question. I was horrified that they were going to be able to just... in the past, when we've had really bad Oregon teams, games like this, where it's like, even if we still, you know, beat them by 30, they were always a good measuring stick for, like, if they scored 28 on us, that's a bad sign. Like, that means that the real teams in the future are really going to light us up. You know what I mean? And I don't think we've had that, or it clearly wasn't that. At the same time, you kind of have less to learn from games like this at a certain point. You're like, okay, you can officially beat Portland State, break a scoring record in Austin on Portland State. What are we going to do against Texas Tech next week?
I think the only thing that I learned, and as we all know, I still have plenty to learn.
Yet you refuse to, any of it.
Shut up. It was nice for me to see, what's his name? James, the running back?
Oh, Jordan James, yeah.
Jordan James.
Mm-hmm.
That was fun. And I was like, oh, he's going to be someone to watch, I think.
Yeah, he was a really powerful runner. And a lot of people's their first takeaway from that, because it's the other things you can kind of take away from games like this, is who's actually playing and who's not injury-wise,
Right.
you know? Like Noah Whittington, our usual kind of 1B running back, you know, like very practically a starter, even though Bucky Irving is the go-to guy. Jordan James played for him, and Noah Whittington did not play in this game. And Dan Lanning is one of those coaches who's like not going to answer any kind of injury question in a press release. Refuses to, like, even a basic one, you know, like, he wasn't there for this game. Is he injured? Like, he ain't going to answer that. And there was quite a few players that didn't play, or didn't play the first quarter but came in later, like Dorless or something like that, that I think now that we're playing Texas Tech, they're going to make an appearance. Like, it wasn't worth going against a team like Portland State.
Yeah, I think he probably, I mean, he seems like a numbers guy to me, if that makes any sense. He likes data points, maybe.
Who doesn't?
Like,
they're wonderful.
Playing with them.
Mm-hmm.
That he probably crunched the numbers and was like, I don't need certain players on the field to beat this team. I can do it with my, you know, my arsenal of talent.
Yeah. I mean, it was nuts. So many pass catchers that were just tearing that team apart.
Dude.
Bucky Irving just...
I mean, the part that really broke my heart was whenever, you know, Portland State is on top of the receiver. And that's about as far as they can go, is like, I can keep up with this guy, but I can't also try and deflect a pass. I'm too focused on running as fast as I can.
That little comeback that Troy Franklin got, and it was like, well, technically there's a Portland State defender there, so maybe they'll be able to clean up the... And then he just, whoop, loops around him for the... That just felt like, okay, we're done here.
Yeah, big time.
Not going to get better than that. So there's not too much.
Great opener, though. I mean, I have to say,
yeah.
That's exactly how you want your season to start. I have to wonder, though, at what point did people in the stadium also kind of become like, well, now we're just at a social hour?
I think pretty quickly. I mean, well, that's kind of why that second Portland State drive was kind of nice. Because it kept them like, I know I wasn't the only one that was going like, oh crap, what is going on? But after that, I mean, it was done. And just remember, Aaron, isn't this a drastic difference than last year? We started against number 3 Georgia, who would go on to be the national champion.
Right.
Back to back. And they just completely demoralized us 49-3. Like, that's how we started it last time. This is exact opposite. And feels better. Feels better.
Yeah, I guess I guess I must have blocked that game out of my memory because I don't remember how I felt about it. I remember I knew we were supposed to lose. I knew that it was a pretty much guaranteed fact we were gonna lose that game.
Yeah.
And then we did. I don't remember us only having 3 points. How bummery.
Yeah, that game was as useful for studying as this game is, where you're like, oh, you get some crucial points, but at a certain point, this game is just gone, and the other team just has far superior players.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm feeling good. I mean, obviously, 81 points. New Autzen scoring record. That's the most we have scored in the modern era. You'd have to go back to 1910 when we played Pacific College and we beat them 120-0, I believe.
Oh my God, Adam! Do you remember when we were at that game?
It was nuts, man.
That was a nuts game. 1910 in general was nuts.
Yeah, the hooch was crazy.
And for all of our listeners out there, if you're curious what exactly it is I'm talking about right now, if you head over to our Patreon, which is PAC-12podcast.com, we'll get you to... There it is. Thank you, Adam. You can tell that I don't do this often. We have on our Patreon a slew of additional content that you are guaranteed to love, like Quack in Time, where we go through every single year of Oregon Ducks football, discussing it, rating it, and living through it, as well as Duck D&D, in which I get to coach a very imaginary team of Oregon Ducks through the pandemic season that was so thankfully canceled.
At least for the West Coast, yeah.
But
Thank
yeah,
you, Aaron.
if
I
you head
couldn't have
over
done
to
that
our
better
website,
myself.
that'll link you to the Patreon, where you can subscribe for a measly $5 a month to grab all that content. And if you're like me, then what you could also really do is just for $5, go on there, binge the shit out of it, and then cancel your subscription. We don't care.
True.
Just give us $5 and enjoy our content.
Absolutely. Also, we know you're going to forget, and then you're going to keep giving us $5. We know how this subscription model goes, baby.
Yeah.
If you're super cheap, though, and afraid to give us your credit card information, then go over to Apple Podcasts, give us 5 stars, helps people find the podcast, leave us a nice comment, too. And for YouTube viewers, this is the real perk. You are seeing our living mascot, TD, a beautiful duck who has two motions. He looks to the right and he looks to the left, but he is there the whole time. You got to check him out, folks. He's beautiful.
Yeah, he likes to watch me, and then he likes to watch you, Adam. So he's just constantly back and forth, back and forth.
Back and forth. Classic watcher. You got to see him. Go over to Quack-12 Podcast YouTube and smash that subscribe. Aaron, there was a bunch of games I watched week 1. There was a bunch of upsets, I'll tell you this much, not to get too into it. This isn't pick'ems yet, but upsets that almost happened that you almost called that cracked me up.
Now, see, this is the fun part, right? Is that I saw a few. The one that I got excited most about was Colorado.
Oh, yeah. Did you see the results of that game? I hope you did.
I did.
Oh,
I did.
Man. You called that one hard. That
so,
game
take me through it, Pops. I want to see how far off did I get. Because I tell you, I had a communion with the universe that week. It felt good.
Well, it paid off. Coach Prime, I mean, he came in, as I've been saying, just so much hype. I kept saying undeserved hype. And maybe still a little bit because the amount of hype he's writing is still insane. But he went over to TCU. And it was a shootout. It was back and forth. But holy hell, were they fun to watch. His son, Shedeur Sanders, just lit him up. His first game as a Colorado Buff, he played at the HBCU with his dad. Now he's here at Colorado. And he broke the all-time passing record for a Colorado Buff. Like immediately. Over 500 yards passing. They also have a two-way player, Travis Hunter. I think he even did some special teams. I kind of forget, but he was a great defensive back. Got an awesome pick where robbed them of a score. Where he's literally leaping in the air. Also scored touchdowns. Was a lethal down the field threat. It was fun to watch. He was just like Prime, two-way player, and Colorado is as exciting of a team as you can have right now. They're ranked number 22. They're about to go play Nebraska, which is their ancient rival.
Very cool.
That is real college football there. And Nebraska just lost, so that could be another win for them. And then I think after that they play Colorado State, which should be another win. So then they play us, so that would be 3-0, and that would be a pretty big game.
Well, they're not going to beat us.
I don't think so either, but that'd be a fun build-up.
But based off of the arm we watched on Bo Nix in that first game, and now what you tell me about the arm on Junior, dang.
Yeah,
it could be a very exciting game. It's going to come down to, and I'm sure Hythloday will help us out with all this when we get there. But it sounds like it's going to become a pass defense game.
Oh, we'll see. Well, just like with Oregon's next opponent, I think that our offense is enough where I'm and I hope the defense has a good game, but regardless, I think we're going to beat them by at least 2 scores. Because so Texas Tech's the next guy. We got some content in the future here. Really with an interview covering this team, but let me just show you this mascot. Here he is. I think his name's Pistol Pete. He's basically Yosemite Sam, if you ever seen Yosemite Sam. I mean, right? He's Yosemite Sam.
My cousin went to Tech, and she was much older than me, so I feel like I remember though that when she was in college, Yosemite Sam was in fact like the like there was a cartoon version of him as the mascot. Maybe I'm completely. Maybe it was always just this guy, and I was just like, oh yeah, that's Yosemite Sam.
Obviously, and there's also the Masked Rider there, which is pretty cool. Obviously, we can't be making fun of a team for having, a famous cartoon mascot that then becomes your mascot, and everyone has to pretend that that's not them, because obviously ours is a little.
I'm not making fun of anything because based off of the mascots you showed me a few weeks ago.
Yeah, at least it's amazing. Not a white man. Well, I guess it is a white man with guns.
So interesting.
It still is.
It's just so curious how there seem to be multiple schools that are like, yeah, we have two mascots. We have a real person that's just in a costume-ish, like Halloween, and then we have this very overblown cartoon character.
Yeah, I agree. That is weird. So, Aaron, we're now ranked number 13. We're ranked number 13. We did go up 2 spots, as did a bunch of other Pac-12 teams. Like, for example, Colorado is now ranked. They're number 22. Oregon State went up. They're 16. Utah right ahead of us, number 12. Washington's all the way at number 8. And then USC number 6. So Pac-12, even though it's dying, is kind of stronger than it's ever been. Texas Tech, on the other hand, the team we're about to play, they went up to Wyoming, Laramie, Wyoming, where they've got a huge elevation advantage. They're not a very talented team per se, but they're super well coached. They always have been. And they had a very noodly armed quarterback, but they had a great defense. Tyler Shuck, the ex-Duck, leads them to a quick 17 points, and it looks like Texas Tech is going to blow them out. Like it's 17-0. All of a sudden, though, the Wyoming defense buckles down. Their not very good quarterback, who, in my opinion, maybe was concussed, but who knows, sticks it throughout the whole game. And they just and the field goal kicking is terrible from Texas Tech, which certainly doesn't help. I think they were 2 of 5. They buckle down, and they score 17 unanswered points. So it's tied now. Then it goes to overtime. Then it goes to double overtime. And Wyoming gets the upset in Laramie. And so Texas Tech now is coming in, or we are going down there. They just lost. They are now 0-1, and it was kind of an embarrassing loss. Tyler Shuck looked a little shook, like he did in a lot of our games, honestly. And the Texas Tech defense against a not very good offense looked bad. And so that's why couldn't be more stoked about what I think we're about to do. I am like, Aaron, I think we're going to beat them by like 3 scores, and I'm kind of afraid by how excited I am about this. I think I'm setting up myself for disaster.
Tyler Shuck, it all comes down to him, right?
I think they're going to have to keep up with us scoring. I don't think it's going to be like one of those things where it's like, oh, wow, Texas Tech's defense is really shutting this down. Bo Nix is too sure of a dude for them to really rattle him. I don't think they have the players to.
That's why I'm thinking it's going to come down to Shuck and where are his mentals at when faced with a place he had to leave.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. I'll tell you, they love him there. He has been their starter. Yeah, he's been a start. Like, last week was his first loss as a starter. He did have some injuries, unfortunately, last year, but they love the dude. And they were especially hyped for this team. They just had an embarrassing loss, so I think there's a little bit off. But they've sold out the stadium. Apparently, you probably know this, but Lubbock is 5 hours away from freaking anything. Is this correct? Yeah. Have you been to Lubbock? And why were you
of course.
Why were you there if it's 5 hours away from anything?
Because it's not actually 5 hours away from anything. There's plenty. I mean, you can get to Amarillo, you can get to Snyder. The problem is the places that you can get to, it's like, well, there's more going on in Lubbock than there is these places, so maybe we just hang out here.
Fair enough. I get you.
If anybody is familiar with the band Lightning Bolt, there's an old documentary that follows them on one of their tours where they were playing a show in Lubbock that got shut down. So they ended up moving the show to this house, but because it gets hotter than hell in Western Texas, the drummer, what's his name? Something Chippendale? Maybe it's just Chippendale. I don't know.
Yeah,
they actually
Rescue
set up
Rangers,
in the kit.
Correct?
Huh?
They're Rescue Rangers, correct?
Yeah. They set up their gear in the kitchen, and he is sitting inside the refrigerator while he drums to keep cool.
I like that. I like
and that all happened in Lubbock, Texas.
Well, there you go. I hope there's a win happening in Lubbock, Texas coming up. Like, I'm too hyped almost. I'm going to be crushed if we lose this game. We are a touchdown favorite right now. I kind of think we should be more. I'm a little bit shocked. I'm as shocked as this. This is kind of a random thought that came in my head, but I had to tell you this, Aaron. So the Pac-12, obviously we've been talking nonstop about how, they haven't been very good over the years, blah, blah. Yep. This season, as of right now, every single Pac-12 team won their game. All 12 of them. And then USC had a week 0 game too. So 13 wins straight. We are the only conference that is undefeated. And I freaking love it.
Man, well, you basically just kind of broke down to me then how I did in the pick'ems, because I feel like I went against a fair number of Pac-12.
Oh, yeah, you did. Oh, yeah, you did.
I did.
I'll point a lot of these out. But I wanted to bring this up.
Oh, I'm sure you will point them out.
You went for a couple that were like pie in the sky crazy. And I was definitely ripping you apart for some of them. But one that I have to bring up is Arizona State against Southern Utah University, a team we hung 70 points on a couple years ago, something like that. They almost beat them, dude. It came down to the final drive, and not only that, but the juju was insane in this game. So it starts at 8, 9 p.m. or something like that. Your boy was watching.
Yeah.
And it was not a great game. And at halftime, it was 21-7. And all of a sudden, at halftime, I thought there was a fog that hit the field. It was a sandstorm. It was so thick that it looked like a fog. And then there was also rain. There was also thunder, like lightning. And so they had to postpone the half for about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. I can't remember. Most people left the stadium, so the stadium was kind of emptied after that. I mean, not kind of. It was.
This game was in Arizona?
Yes, this is in Tempe.
Right.
And so when they come back, the other team, Southern Utah University, just rallies. Also, it's just ASU just wasn't looking all that good. And they had, it was 24-21, man. It was amazing. I was rooting so hard for your prediction to come up. Jaden Rashada got his first start. They barely survive. I was rooting for you, buddy, but it didn't work out.
So I don't want to go too deep into this, but you made me just think about it. With the how to put this to where, certain deniers won't get too upset. With the ever-changing landscape of how our weather systems work. It seems like football as a outdoor sport might have limited time left.
Well, it's certainly
that kind of shit is just going to become more and more common.
Certainly, places in Arizona they do have to think of that all the time. There's reasons why there's only night games in Arizona. It's because it's actually physically too hot to play.
Right. So basically, I hate to say it, But if there is a school with a football program below the Mason-Dixon line, they ain't going to have a football program that gets to play outside for very much longer.
I think you're underestimating how little we care about player safety when it comes to money.
But what we do care about is ticket sales and money. And if the general public is like, I'm not going to that in this.
Yeah.
You're going to have to, we're going to be switching. College football will become arena football.
Ah, well, there you go. We'll see what happens.
And all the dudes are going to wear bikinis.
And dogs are going to walk humans around.
Yes, dude.
Before we go into a commercial break, I wanted to show you a fun video. So we have played Texas Tech twice in our history, in 91 and 92. Both of those seasons we freaking sucked, let me tell you that.
Okay.
91 especially more than 92. I believe Danny O'Neal was our quarterback for 91. So we beat them both times, though. So no matter how much we sucked, apparently we were better. Yeah, we went 3-8 in Rich Brooks' 15th season, though we did beat Texas Tech. And then in 92, we went 6-6. So we at least went to a bowl game where we lost to Wake Forest. And we lost to number 1 Washington. God damn, I hate this season. But we beat Texas Tech. This is a promo I wanted to play. Which luckily, Oregon Duck historian, videographer, I'll say, Kurt. Please follow him on YouTube. He's a great follow. KEEERRRTTT. He's preserved this 92 promo for the game. I figured we should play this and then maybe go into commercial. And then we will have special guest Hythloday of Addicted to Quack joining the podcast. But before then, Aaron, please get your hands up. No, you don't really have to clap. I got this beautiful clip for you. Roll that beautiful bean footage.
The excitement returned to Autzen Stadium last week as the Ducks got back on the winning track. As Sean Burwell goes, so do the Ducks, as Burwell ran up 213 yards of all-purpose yardage.
God, this footage looks like it might as well be from the
Barnes, who is number
60s.
6 on the all-time list. There was also good news on the defensive side of the ball, as the Ducks played inspired second-half D to shut down a high-powered Texas Tech offense.
Damn, that is some 90s ass background music. You don't get that anymore.
That's about the only thing from that looked like it's. I mean, their oversized padding was also like screaming 1990s to me.
Oh yeah. That being said, Aaron, let's go to our commercial here, and then we will be back, and we'll talk about the rest of the pack. Quack quack.
All right.
Aw, what's wrong there, young sports fan?
My life is falling apart. My family left me because I won't shut the fuck up about my favorite team, the Oregon Ducks.
What you need is to join the rest of the flock at the PAC-12 podcast.
Sounds great. Is it some kind of drug? Will an eighth be enough? Because I'm jonesing really bad.
No, it's not a drug. It's even better. It's the world's greatest Oregon Ducks podcast.
So do I snort it?
Visit quack12podcast.com to find free weekly episode and links to the Quack-12 Patreon.
I'm sold. Who needs a family with drugs like this? Quack, quack.
Quack, quack, quack. We are back in quaction, if you will, everybody. And we've got the great Hythloday of Addicted to Quack on the show. Hythloday, how you doing after a week 1 blowout?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing well because I just read Duct Tape film review of Week 1, 2023 versus Portland State. If you still want to revel in that win, listeners, go over to Addicted to Quack and read this article. Now, we already talked about Portland State a little bit on this podcast for the last couple episodes, actually. But I wanted to get a couple of your takes here, not to to dissect the article too much because I want people to go read it. But what were some of your some interesting, surprising, if you will, things that you saw from Portland State? I know there's only so much kind of relevant or good information you can get out of a game like that. But what were a few things that surprised you?
Well, out of the Portland State Vikings?
Or out of the Ducks week 1 that you've seen?
Well, yeah, because I mean, nothing that the Vikings did surprise me. Actually, I mean, like I as like the film reviewer nerd, like I had all off season to dive into them, and like like everything that they did was like exactly as I predicted, which like who else is going to preview an FCS game, I guess, but like I did, and yeah, it was right on target. But anyway, actually they were slightly better. Like I was predicting some problems with having to replace their center that they wound up like it turned out they replaced him fine, so actually good for them. Yeah, I mean, in terms of offense, it was all nominal. I mean, I guess to answer your question literally about the Ducks, the biggest surprise is there were a number of personnel for the Ducks that was held out that I don't think are like being kicked off the team or whatever. We're gonna see them. Probably on Saturday against Texas Tech, and they were just being held out for precautionary reasons, or who knows? I don't want to speculate or anything, but maybe they were being held out for disciplinary reasons that they're just not telling us about because they're just keeping it private. Like, again, I don't want to speculate or anything. I'm just saying that, like, that's a week 1 thing that happens, as well. So, like, on offense, there weren't many of them, but, like, we didn't see Chris Hudson. I was fully expecting to see Chris Hudson, but, like, he wasn't on the field at all. Or like Noah Whittington, he got banged up on the opening kickoff return, like literally the first play of the game. He got like whammed, it was weird. And I think just like precautionary, just like, look, we got like 4 other running backs, man. Like, Noah, why don't you, just chill? And it was just like, it was very clear, hey man, they won like 81-7. Like if a guy had like a hangnail, they were like, guys, dude, whatever, just chill on the bench, man. So like, and then on, so on offense, there weren't a lot of them, but there were a couple like those guys. And then, like, to the point where even though I wrote an entire article about Gary Bryant, the USC transfer, who's like 5'10", and the entire article was don't play him on the outside. Like Clay Helton, who screwed up his wide receiver room, like played him on the outside, and I like had entire comparative videos. Like, look how good he is if you play him in the slot, and then look how like less effective he is if you try to make him an outside receiver. Oregon goes and plays him on the outside. Now he kicked ass. Because it was Portland State, but that was because Chris Hudson and but then they had like Kyler Casper and so forth, and it did, but it was like because it was Portland State, so anyway, I'm not really expecting that stuff to continue, so yeah, that's answering your question about like what was the surprise. Well, it's because there was stuff that was happening in that game that's probably not going to continue in the future. And then on defense, there's a bunch of that. A bunch of guys. Justin Jacobs wasn't playing. Evan Williams wasn't playing. Brandon Dorlus didn't show up until the second quarter, which I don't know what that was about. And so there were a couple of things that happened on defense that actually do constitute like, oops, I was wrong. When I wrote my summer predictions, and which are like, these are significant, which is that I was predicting Jordan Birch, the South Carolina transfer, to be like the weak side OLB, who's the pass rusher, and for him to slim down. Nope, they bulked him up and moved him inside to be a 4-eye, which like, I really don't get that move at all, because Oregon's like really deep at 4-eye, but like they needed like an edge rusher, and instead they're going with freshmen like Matayo Uyunglele and Blake Purchase and Amarian Winston, which is like, okay, I guess that's what they're rolling with. And like, that's not something that's going to change in a week, like that's not, he's not going to drop 30 pounds, in a week and become an edge rusher. I was wrong about Cole Martin. Remember, I made a big deal about that, being the nickel back. Nope. They're having like, Nico Reed, the Colorado transfer, play as the cornerback, or the nickel back, which is interesting because he's like an outside corner, and they're having him play at nickel, which like kind of actually makes sense now that I think about it, because like they want to like they want to make that more of a pass defender, because they want to make everything more of a pass defender in this defense. Like everything is about defending the pass in this defense, which like, yeah, they definitely did, like, read my article. I go into, great depth about like how this defense is all about being a pass defense. So yeah, those were the things.
Yeah. It was a pretty easy game to eventually be like, all right, and now I hope the people in the stadium are having fun.
Yeah.
But next week, I'm excited about this, going against Texas Tech. But let's just dive straight into it, y'all, right? Because we'll get into what we think about Oregon Techs. And actually, keep your eye on this feed, because we will have an interview with the Texas Tech know-it-all. Very excited about that. But let's get into it. Everybody's favorite. Oh, my goodness. We had a lot of them. We had a lot of them. And Aaron made so many close call picks. I'll just feed that in there. Like, he almost called Southern Utah beating Arizona State. That was definitely my favorite. Northern Arizona did not have a chance against Arizona. Sorry about that one. But you did call Colorado winning, and I appreciate that. You're the only one out of the three of us to call that. Very Aaron move. But let's get into this one's first. So we start off Saturday, 9 a.m. ESPN. Number 12 Utah goes and travels to the Baylor Bears. Baylor Bears, who just lost in embarrassing fashion. Utah, on the other hand, Aaron, you chose Florida last week, I do remember.
Yeah.
Utah embarrassed Florida, and like, Utah had a pretty good game, especially with the two backup quarterbacks and Brant Keithy not being there. But it was more, in my opinion, Florida embarrassing themselves with old Mertz there as quarterback. And just Utah was there to pick up the pieces in this, I would say. Aaron, this time, are you willing to back the Utah Utes?
I am not. I'm going to go with the Baylor Bears.
All right. I'll take your word for that one, Aaron. I absolutely am going with the Utes. I still don't know what the deal is with Cam Rising. I imagine he's still not ready to go if he wasn't for Florida. I don't think they need him, though. I think Barnes or Johnson would, maybe more Barnes. Johnson, he was an impressive, athlete, but I think there's a few more mistakes with him. Regardless, I think Utah is a well-coached enough team that I think they're going to go on the road and beat the Baylor Bears. Hythloday, I'm not sure how much Baylor you've watched, but I know you've dived into Utah quite a bit. What are your thoughts on this one?
I have actually weirdly watched a lot of Baylor. Because I watched BYU last year, and their most significant game right before Oregon played them was Baylor, and I watched Texas Tech, which they play Baylor, and for a bunch of different reasons. I don't like Baylor, I really don't. I don't, even though everybody loves their offensive coordinator Jeff Grimes. I don't like Aranda as a head coach. I think he does a poor job recruiting and managing the team. Yeah, no, I would have loved Utah to destroy them if they had Rising. I don't like Baylor's quarterback, Blake Shapen, but Shapen is out. It's actually bizarrely the one thing that gives me pause about this game is that maybe that if Aaron pulls this out and Baylor winds up winning and pulling the rope-a-dope, it's because their backup quarterback turns out to be great, and that Aranda is such a dummy at managing this team that the backup quarterback lights the fire, and it's Aranda, what were you doing?
If they were playing Oregon, that's exactly the script that would happen, but I'm not sure.
So I can't predict that's going to happen. So give me Utah, but if Baylor wins, that's it. I totally agree with you, Adam. That game, where they pantsed Florida was much more about just Florida being a joke. Because Utah didn't really look good. I still think that the pick of Florida to beat Utah wasn't stupid. We just weren't very familiar with how awful Florida was going to be. But if you watch that game from the second quarter on, Like, if you didn't watch the first quarter of that game, and it was like a 0-0 tie, oh yeah, that was an even game of two teams that like weren't very good. Like, it was like unwatchable.
But if you
So,
watch the
like-
first play from Utah, you're like, oh man,
Yeah.
they're destroying them.
Yeah, that's like
70-yard
a
touchdown
classic
or-
anchoring effect. You know,
Yeah.
like that play just like influences the way that you think about the rest of the performance. You know, and some other like some good defense and stuff, but like their offense is just like gross. You know, and they weren't even like really running the ball effectively, which is the one
No.
thing that like I really, you know, like Utah only had 105 yards rushing against Florida, which is like that's really bad. Like that's supposed to be their bread and butter. And like, oh man, and like the one thing that you can say about Aranda is that he puts together a good defense. So like, if anybody thinks this is going to be a blowout, I actually don't really think that's going to be the case. I think this is going to be like this really gross like 17-10 game that Utah wins, but it's like, ugh.
That sounds about right. Up next, Colorado, who
Wait,
who
so
won.
is that what y'all are going with?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm going with Utah. You're the only one going with Baylor.
I just never
But
heard anyone officially say.
Yeah,
You were the
I'm
only
going
one.
with Utah.
Aaron, you were the only one brave enough.
I mean,
to choose-
Baylor just got beat by Texas State. Like, they just
Yeah.
got humiliated.
That's kind of
I don't
where I'm
know.
going with it.
I don't know.
You were the only one brave enough, Aaron, to pick Colorado, going
Yeah.
to TCU and beating them. Again, I think it's maybe a little bit more of a sign of like, oh yeah, TCU did lose.
Which is something that we talked about, you know.
Yeah.
We talked about like, hey, Colorado's better than you think and TCU's worse than you think, and so like anybody who thinks this is going to be like 25-point blowout is ridiculous. It's just like you can't pick Colorado in this game. And like, look, Colorado did their best to lose this game, you know. Like,
Yeah.
it's not like that defense was real great, you know. It was just that
and-
TCU was a little worse than people were expecting, and Colorado played their best player on both sides of the ball, which is like not
That's right.
sustainable. You know, like that.
You don't
That's
think
probably
100
some.
snaps a game is sustainable?
Yeah,
Wow.
I think playing Travis Hunter 120 times a game like gets you a win against TCU, and then maybe makes them not make a bowl. You know, it's sort of like they look. It's sort of like they burnt the candle at both ends in order to get like one really dramatic win, and like I kind of think that this is going to wind up costing them in the long run. You know,
Yeah, we'll see. Well-
I'm not saying it was a stupid move. Like, it might be the kind of thing that they need in order to build hype and attention. Like, I still like I'm kind of a Sanders defender in that like I think a lot of his moves to garner attention and attract like recruiting and good transfers to his program are like necessary moves, and like everybody who's like a detractor of his because they're sick of his shtick, or like you're playing into his game, like you're fools for not seeing that's what's going on in the attention economy. I'm just saying that like anybody who takes that performance and say, okay, multiply that times 12 and that's Colorado's season is sort of not seeing how this is. I think is not seeing this clearly either.
I could see that. And things that'll cloud your judgment is definitely huge rivalries like Colorado versus Nebraska Huskers. The Cornhuskers just lost in last-minute fashion to Minnesota. It was quite the game. Aaron, who do you got here? Number 22, Colorado, or unranked Nebraska? A lot of hate here.
I think Colorado's going to take this one again.
This one, I think, will be a lot closer than some people have it. I'm feeling a little frisky here. I'm going to say that Rule, he gets his defense in line, and Colorado gets punched in the mouth one too many times, and I think Nebraska upsets Colorado and certainly upsets Prime. Could go either way. I almost think Colorado, but just for fun, I'm going Nebraska.
Nice.
This will be the first Pac-12 loss. Hythloday, do you have any thoughts on this one? I know, right? This is a tough one. This is a lot of unknowns.
Yeah, it is tough. I mean, here's the tough thing. Everybody lots of people want to take Colorado because, Nebraska is just like expert at tripping all over themselves, right? Like they're just like they have magic powers at losing close games, and it's crazy. Like if you look at the second order wins, and it goes back for like 10 years over multiple coaches. Like it's crazy. Like they lose games that they ought to win, like constantly, and it happened again last week under Matt Rule, under a new coach. Like they should have beat Minnesota, and then they didn't, and so it's like, what am I supposed to do with that? Like they should beat Colorado. So what am I supposed to do as an analyst? Should I say, well, they should beat Colorado, and so therefore I'll take Nebraska to beat Colorado? Or should I look at this pattern in which, every time Nebraska is supposed to win, they lose, and take, and say, well, therefore they're going to lose to Colorado? Like, what am I supposed to do?
You can flip a coin.
Oh, man.
You going to back the Pack or back our new conference foes?
The game is played in Boulder. Give me the home team. Whenever I am uncertain, give me the home team.
Fair enough. Also, Dan Carlin of Hardcore History, that's his favorite team. So go with Colorado.
Whoa.
That's right.
If Colorado wins this game, they're definitely going to beat Colorado State. They'll be 3-0. If Oregon is 3-0 for the week 4, that means game day to Eugene, which,
Whew.
So I'm rooting for that.
Number 8, Washington versus the Tulsa Golden Hurricanes. Washington just lit up Boise State. Eventually they just got sick of it and were just like, let's just throw on them. And they did. Who do you got, Aaron?
Washington all day.
Washington. Yeah, they're your favorite team. Makes sense. Saturday, 12:30 p.m. ABC. I will also have to go with Washington, unfortunately. We're going to have to be the one that beats them eventually.
Hythloday, what time did you say?
Saturday, 12:30 p.m. Am I correct?
I think it's
or
2
wrong?
p.m.
Oh, my goodness. Listeners, watchers, ignore that. 2 p.m. Well, that changes everything. Tulsa. No, I'm joking. I'm still going with Washington.
Sorry.
How about you, Hith?
I have to record all of these games, man.
Yeah.
Oregon plays Washington out of the bye, so. No, Washington.
Yeah.
Tulsa's not going to be a good team this year.
Wazoo.
I'm not sure that Washington. Their run game is just like non-existent. It was crazy. Like they kept trying to it was funny, against Boise State. I'll shut up quickly, but your recap was totally accurate. They kept trying to assert that they had a run game against Boise State, and then they didn't. And then finally they were like, well, I guess we should win the game. Bring out the unstoppable passing offense.
That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
And that's actually on the Pac-12 network, not ABC, of course. Washington State versus Wisconsin. This is 4:30 p.m. ABC. I'm sure about this one. Wazoo, if you looked at the score from last week, you may be, wow, Washington State, they really got something there. There were some tough Cam Ward moments. There's some big plays, but it was kind of more their defense really giving them the game against Colorado State. However, they won last year against Wisconsin. Aaron, who are you going with here? This is at home. This is in Pullman.
Oh, this is in Pullman?
Mm-hmm.
Huh. I guess I still just don't have much faith in them, so I'm going to go with Wisconsin?
Fair enough. On Wisconsin is what you're saying. I, too, am going with Wisconsin. Not that I have a whole bunch of faith in Wisconsin, but kind of that I think there's going to be a few too many mistakes from Wazoo that gives Wisconsin the ability to maybe sit on the ball as they're prone to do. But, this is a new coach for Wisconsin as well. But it's more of a lack of faith in Wazoo than it is a faith in Wisconsin. Hopefully they make me eat my words. I want all the Pac-12 teams to stay undefeated. What'd you think about this Wazoo team? Do you think they got a shot this week, Hythloday?
I mean, I think they have a shot. I mean, I don't really think the first game that either of these teams played was really very informative, because I don't really think much of San Jose State or Buffalo, which was Wisconsin's opponent in Week 1 this year, and honestly, the Washington State eventually poured it on against San Jose State, but against Colorado State. Why do I keep saying San Jose State? But if you watch the early part of that game, it was hardly effortless, it wasn't really until the late in the third quarter that they started really pouring it on. I think and plus Colorado State just couldn't run the ball at all, which is really what the thing I wanted to see what Wazoo's defense is going to be like, and really what Wisconsin is going to test them. I kind of think that Wisconsin is just going to pound the ball, and it was interesting because Wisconsin really couldn't run very effectively against Wazoo last year, but that I don't know. That was for reasons that may have died with the old coaching staff, and I think that the new coaching, I just think this is a better coaching staff and probably a better offensive line. And I think that Wisconsin will probably just be able to actually execute the game plan. Plus, I think that that Wazoo's excellent linebackers, surprise excellent linebackers. I didn't actually see that one coming. That was my bad when I was previewing Wazoo last year, are all gone now, and so I don't I think that's shifts everything. It was bad Wisconsin run game that they kept insisting on versus good Wazoo linebackers who stopped that run, was why Wazoo won last year, and I think all of that situation flips this year. I think that Wisconsin's going to have a better run game and Wazoo's going to have a worse run defense, and so now I think Wisconsin wins.
Fair enough. Arizona at Mississippi State. That is right. 4:30 p.m. This is on the SEC Network. Arizona took care of NAU, but who knows, my man. Mississippi State, I don't know shit about them, to tell you the truth. Aaron, who do you got?
Mississippi State all day. Why not? Let's get crazy.
Going with the Bulldogs. I think, but maybe I'm just going because they're on the road. I would go with Mississippi State as well. But I could see Arizona. I mean, if they're not ready, I could see Arizona making a game out of this. But I'm really guessing here. Hythloday, any thoughts?
I mean, no, not really.
I know, right?
Both these teams blew out an FCS opponent, in week 1. So who knows? I do think that Arizona has a more complete offense, than Mississippi State does. But Mississippi State's defense was excellent last year. They were 17 and F plus last year. I'm kind of thinking that Mississippi State's defense just sort of shuts down Arizona because it is shut downable. Especially in the red zone, and if that's the case, I think that Arizona's defense is probably just going to be really bad. I think that Mississippi State is just going to score at will, and if Arizona can't respond in kind, especially if they're having red zone scoring problems, then I think that it's a pretty strong possibility that the Cowbells just sort of crock-pot them. Trading touchdowns for field goals, and so it's by the second half it's 28-12 kind of deal where they both scored 4 times, but it's touchdowns to field goals, and it's oh well, this is going to get out of hand.
Our next game here, Chip Kelly, he's fed up with the commercials. If you watch the game, hopefully for UCLA's sake, Dante Moore starts, you would think, but who knows? Maybe it's the Garbers explosion. Aaron, UCLA versus San Diego State. I imagine UCLA is the favorite here. They struggled with Coastal Carolina, and they're on the road. Who do you got?
Really? Both things are true?
Yes, I believe so.
Interesting. So then I guess But they're not going. It's San Diego. So UCLA all day, baby.
San Diego State. I wish I knew a little bit more about them. I should, but man, UCLA looked a little strange, but I think it was just Chip Kelly weirdness. I think he was trying some things out. I don't know what was going on with those QBs. I still think the talent of UCLA will win this out, but I would not be surprised if San Diego State won. I'm going with the Bruins, though. What do you think of this matchup?
I mean, UCLA should win. Yeah, I mean, UCLA should win. But Chip Kelly is involved, and so therefore, I'm glad I'm not putting money on it. Like I would never bet on a Chip Kelly team. Like I mean, I would never bet period, like ever. But like if I had, if it were the case that I had to bet on Pac-12 teams, but like I could get one out, it was like I was I had to bet on 11 of them, and I was allowed by the terms of whatever contract I was under, it was only 11 of them, and the one that I would be out on every week would be Chip Kelly. Like no way, man. Yeah. Fun fact, San Diego State has the best resume in America. They are the only team with 2 wins, and one of the teams that they've beaten also has a win.
There you go.
Every other 2-win team has beaten teams that are winless.
Now's the time to be a San Diego State fan. This should be a quick one, you would hope, unless someone's got a spicy take. Number 16, Oregon State, who did take care of their week 1 opponent, Mountain West opponent. Now they're going against UC Davis, so it should be even easier. I like what Jonathan Smith has this team doing right now. Aaron, are you going to pick the upset, or are you going to go with the Beavs?
I think I'm going with the Beavs.
That makes sense. I'm certainly going with the Beavs. They're a good team to root for, except for that final game of the regular season. I think this is going to be short work. Hythloday, yes, they're going to beat UC
they're
Davis.
Playing an FCS team, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, if they lose to an FCS team, it would be pretty funny. But
it'd be funny.
That's not a good reason to pick them. Yeah.
That's kind of how I was with every single Pac-12 FCS game, or like any huge underdog. It's like, well, obviously I want Arizona State to win, but it'd be funny as hell if they lost against Southern Utah University, and they nearly did. I mean, it was like perfect conditions for them to lose, but they didn't, unfortunately. Now we got a Pac-12 game. We got a real Pac-12. It's week 2. It's unfortunate almost because I've enjoyed the undefeated Pac-12-ness, but it cannot stand because number 6 USC is going against Stanford. And if you've been following this matchup over the years, the higher-ranked one, the one with the more hype, usually loses to the other one week 2. Number 6 USC, who Caleb Williams doing amazing things, really like kind of looks like another Heisman winner, like the only other guy to win back-to-back besides Archie Griffin. But yeah, I mean, he's doing amazing things. USC's offensive line, not so much. Their defense is doing good things against bad opponents, but still maybe a little sketchy, but may not matter if they score a billion points in everybody. Aaron, who do you got? The Tree?
I'm going to go with
Trojans?
USC.
USC. That is certainly the safe one. Stanford showed a pulse against Hawaii, which is something both of you didn't think they would, but I did. I knew they would win. All right, and it's not because I like them. I love the Rainbow Warriors, you know that. But for this one, maybe I'm gonna have some fun. Maybe I'll say out of nowhere, Stanford beats them.
Of course you would.
Be funny. It would be funny, and I would feel good about myself if I called it. So I'm going to go with Stanford. I'll go with freaking Stanford.
I mean, if Stanford's lost Adam, they've lost half the fan base. So.
I was about to say, I think we have like proof over the 5-6 years we've been doing this show that you will usually pick Stanford because you love that team.
I don't love them. I'm usually right.
Favorite team?
Probably. No, certainly not favorite. All right, don't get me. We can't get this rumor started again. All right, it's persisted me for years now.
Not a rumor. If it's true every year.
Hith, do you think Stanford has a chance in this one?
No.
Oh, well.
No, I don't.
There
I
you
don't really
go.
think the win over Hawaii is very significant. Hawaii's not a very good team.
They are not.
I mean, they almost beat Vanderbilt. You know, or excuse me, they lost to Vanderbilt. Like that should indicate how bad they are. Yeah, I mean, like Oregon's, plays Hawaii the next week. I've been paying attention, pretty closely. Yeah, no, I just like, Stanford is interesting. Like, in that they are like, I never thought that they were going to be an incompetently, coached team or that they lacked talent. I thought that they I didn't think their offense had the right personnel for Troy Taylor to work with. I was pleasantly surprised that, first of all, they went with a completely different quarterback than I thought they would, Ashton Daniels, who was their running quarterback. So the fact that it turns out that he has an arm means, like, David Shaw, what were you doing? Like, why were you, like, what the hell, dude? So that's, interesting. We got, some data on that question. And the fact that that Troy Taylor managed to put together an offense in which they throw to the tight end is that's another interesting data point for Troy Taylor. You're not, and we definitely know that USC can't defend throwing to the tight end a million times. See their losses to Utah last year.
Yeah.
Plural. So, Stanford can definitely put up some points,
Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah. It's just that, there is no way, I mean, did you see I know that Hawaii didn't, because Hawaii can't run the ball, so they can't actually, sustain, anything, but, Stanford still doesn't have a back end to their defense, and, and Hawaii was still sort of at will hitting deep shots against them, because that's the only tool that Hawaii has. And oh boy, if you thought Hawaii was doing some damage in the air.
Yeah, no, it's true. I'm sticking with my upset, but probably stupid. Now, in true Pac-12 fashion, I've organized this so the more interesting games are at the end, even though we're on a time crunch. I think next week I'll organize this in most intriguing, so we can talk about it a little different. But anyways, so we got two more. We'll shuffle through these really quick. Our most hated Auburn. We hate them.
Yeah, I know. You saved this. This is the hardest one to pick.
Definitely.
You saved the second last.
Cal showed not just a pulse, but kicked the crap out of University of North Texas, and they did it by scoring a lot of points. I had to check to make sure Sonny Dykes wasn't there.
Well, let's
Aaron,
be fair. UNT is a jazz school. It's not a football school.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there you go. Cal versus Auburn. Aaron, who do you got?
I'm going to go with Auburn.
I mean, sure. They got a terrible trash human being of a coach there now, but he knows how to score points. Oh, we don't got time. We'll get into him. We'll have a whole episode.
Yeah, don't worry about it if you don't know his name.
We don't got the time. I'm going to go with Cal just because I think they would be so funny. Auburn fans would light themselves on fire if they lose to a team that barely cares. So I would love if Cal wins this one. What about you, Hith? I know there's a whole lot to pack in a very few time. Hugh Freeze's Auburn. I hate him. Who do you got?
I mean, this one's really hard because, I don't really think that Auburn is very good. They thumped UMass, oh,
yeah.
no. UMass is terrible. But, Cal thumping North Texas. North Texas is terrible. What does that mean? Last year, North Texas had the 119th ranked F+ defense.
Wow.
So Cal putting up points on them doesn't really impress me. Who's the only team who had a worse defense is UMass, who were 124th in F+ defense. So it's the fact that both of these teams whomped terrible defenses I don't know, man. The default is to go with the SEC team because it's more talented. So that's what I'll do. The SEC team is more talent. Like, I spent all summer writing about how Cal has no talent, and I still think they have no talent. And for whatever else you want to say about Hugh Freeze, which I think you can say a lot. He knows how to use talent, and Justin Wilcox doesn't know how to use not talent. So everything points to an Auburn win. If Auburn had struggled with UMass, I would say, okay, Cal's got a shot, but they didn't. So yeah.
I would love Cal one. Please. This is the one I desperately want. And then the final one. Wow, that's a terrible job I did. Arizona State versus Oklahoma State. For me, this is easy as hell because I watched the Arizona State game. Oklahoma State, Oklahoma State, Oklahoma State. That's how I feel. I just threw my pick in there before yours, Aaron. What do you think?
Well, that's fine because there's one thing I can't do, and that is root for Oklahoma State. So I'm going with Arizona State.
That's
all right.
That's the one.
That's the one, baby.
I feel like there's 7 or 8 teams on that list.
I just can't do
Aaron.
it.
Yeah. There's a bunch of schools that have made your shit list. I don't know why, but they seem to pop on and off. Sometimes
Let's
it's
just
Oregon
say
even.
when you're in a band and you play towns where colleges are located,
your
vibe on the town really gets predicated off of how those college kids, act. And let's just say one time while playing a show there, I almost got my ass kicked at the show because I was wearing camouflage. And because I had nothing and no one in my life that was military related, they took offense and decided it was ass-kicking time.
Stolen valor is what you're saying.
I'm like, it's Oklahoma. Do you not go hunting? But anyway, I digress. So fuck them for life.
Wow. Fair enough. Is that enough to sway you over to Arizona State's side, Hythloday? That story?
I mean... No, Oklahoma State should win. But on the other hand, it's not like Oklahoma State covered themselves in glory against the Central Arkansas Bears last week. That was a 27-13 game in which it was 13-7 in the fourth quarter. I didn't watch that game because why would I? But yeah, man.
Well.
But here's the deal. Oklahoma State is a stable team that with a coach who's been there forever, and that's sort of, I can buy that. That's okay, they had a new quarterback and they had to sort of few things out. Whereas Arizona State is they had to torch that thing and rebuild it from the ground up. And it's more likely that Arizona State's struggles are going to persist than Oklahoma State's, which could have just been a shakedown run. So give me Oklahoma State.
That's kind of where I'm at, despite the fact that they were mean to my man Aaron. Now here we are. Here's all the points from last week. Hythloday leads us all with 10 of them because he backed 10 Pac-12 schools. The other 2, they won 2. I got 9. Aaron got 6, but because he chose with his heart, and honestly, if he would have gotten some of those, I think we would have given him a 1.5. But he didn't. And that is it, y'all. That is the Great Pick'em Challenge. We love y'all for your support. Hythloday, once again, go over to Addicted to Quack. We got a bunch of really, really good articles up there. Look for Hythloday's article, Duct Tape film review of Week 1 versus Portland State, but also we got a great Texas Tech preview up there. You will not want to miss it. Best out there, best in the biz. And if you'd like to follow us at Quack12 Podcast on Twitter, at Hythloday1, you should already be following that one. And then
at
all
Quack12 Podcast on TikTok.
On TikTok as well, we exist there. We are a young enough pod. We are with the youths. We are hip and cool. Aaron, all 3 of us got Oregon in this, right? I'm going to throw this last 10 seconds of the show. Are we all picking Oregon?
All day.
Yeah, sure. I know I am. Okay, there you go. That's all I had to hear. Aaron, leave us with a very specific prediction on your way outside the door.
Oregon will score 60 points in the first half.
That is. I like the way you think, buddy. All
Yeah.
right.
I have a specific prediction.
Let's
It's
hear
kind
it.
of an unfortunate one. Shuck doesn't finish the game.
Ooh.
They switched to Baron Morton.
Ooh, that would kill them, but that is very
Dark.
I think we're gonna see Ty Thompson in this game. It's a little more lukewarm, but still means we got a blowout or
like that
a
one.
terrible day in Oregon history. We'll see y'all next week. Quack quack. Please come back.